So I am working on a concept and writing a piece and preparing a session or class on a topic that is titled the misaligned interpretation of Beyonce's Upgrade You and the consequential misapplied ethics that led to role reversal in the ideology of marriage amongst Black women. And what I'm talking about in this piece is how Beyonce's Upgrade You was one of the anthems that was misapplied to the ethics of boss women within not only their own lives, but within their relationships with men, preferably marriages. This idea of upgrade you was this ethic that women took and ran with and made it this idea of I'm a boss and I can make you a boss too. I can make you better. But if you actually listen to the lyrics of Beyonce's song, Beyonce is not cheering on or encouraging the boss ethic of a woman, which she is actually encouraging in the lyrics of her very own song are the ethics of a high capacity helpmate. That this individual that she is talking about upgrading is one that already has it. He's doing his job. He's getting into these boardrooms. He's getting into this business. And she is the helpmate that helps take him to the next notch. What kind of helpmate she is a high capacity helpmate that also is very good at what she does. And she complements his business ethic, his life ethic, and takes him to the next place. Well, the reason why I am using Beyonce's Upgrade You is because I think the interpretation of it has been misaligned amongst women, especially Black women, and has led to this boss woman ethic that has contributed largely to role reversal within Black marriages. And that role reversal not only leads to marriages that are fractured because of it, but it leads also to divorces that happen because of it. And what happens in these relationships is we get this modern day application of what we call marrying down, that Black women are more likely to marry down. Let me show you that I'm not making this up. I want you to look at this with me. This excerpt of reading is from one of my favorite books that I used to do Black marriage counseling, Black marriage studies, and it's called Is Marriage for White People? And it talks about the African-American marriage decline. And one of the things that he talks about in this book is the idea that Black women marry down inside of their race more than they will marry outside of their race. But listen to what he says. He says, but the captivating image of Barack and Michelle also accentuates a sobering reality. As African Americans, they are extraordinary in the most ordinary way. They are a married couple raising their children together. Over the past half century, African Americans have become the most unmarried people in our nation by far. We are the least likely to marry and the most likely to divorce. We maintain fewer committed and enduring relationships than any other group. Not since slavery have Black men and women been as unpartnered as we are now. Although the African-American marriage decline is especially pronounced among the poor, it is apparent as well among the affluent. Doctors, lawyers, corporate professionals, Black women of all socioeconomic classes remain single in part because the ranks of Black men have been decimated by incarceration, educational failure, and economic disadvantage. In recent years, 2 Black women have graduated college for every 1 Black man, 2 to 1, every year. As a result, college-educated Black women are more likely than college-educated Black women are more likely than college-educated women of other races to remain unmarried or to wed a less educated man who earns less than they do. More than half of married Black women who have graduated from college have less educated husbands. Yet, despite the shortage of Black male peers, Black women do not marry men of other races. Black women marry across class lines, but not race lines. They marry down, but not out. Thus, they lead the most racially segregated, intimate lives of any Americans. Why? Why are Black women the least likely to marry out? What are the consequences of the unprecedented rates at which they marry down or remain unmarried? These are the questions at the heart of my inquiry. I find the answers in two very different types of evidence. For more than a year, I've traveled the country interviewing scores of professional Black women at length about their relationships with men. Their stories, told with courage and candor, are certain to resonate deeply with some readers and to surprise or even shock others. Before I conducted my first interview, I devoted several years to the study of the Black marriage decline. And he talks about that, but then he goes here and talks about marrying down also. What is marrying down? Successful Black women marry down when they partner with a man who was lower earning and less educated than they are. Black women marry down more frequently than any other group of women. The prevalence of marry down relationships may constitute a missing piece in many puzzling aspects of the marriage gap, a means of explaining empirical findings that have confounded researchers. Most obviously, the high incidence of African American marry down relationships may contribute to racial disparities in divorce rates. African Americans may divorce so frequently in part because the educational and cultural gap between the spouses renders them incompatible mates. Married down relationships are more prone to dissolve, and African Americans are more likely to have a married down relationship. So what does this mean? This means that this married down relationship ethic that we have is something that leads women into a unsanctioned burden to actually produce better men by marrying them and trying to upgrade them. That's the misaligned ethic that they have, and it comes with consequences, rather than finding men who are capable to lead them in becoming a high capacity helpmate. Now, what he does in that book is he talks about incarceration, less education, and less earnings are the reason why women choose to marry down. But I do not believe less education and less earnings automatically make a man a marry down mate. It depends on what he is doing in spite of having less education and less earnings. If he is working inside of his gift set and he is finding a way to lead where all the bases are covered in spite of those two facts. And so what Beyoncé actually does is she borrows a helpmate ethic from the Bible. And she lands us in Ephesians 5, where we realize that the way that God has designed the marital relationship is that the man is the proactive partner that is responsible for leading his mate, for developing his mate, and for developing the vision and leading to the vision of marriage, right? It doesn't mean that his mate cannot be a high capacity boss in her spaces where she works. It just means that once she becomes a boss in their marriage, it leads to role reversal. And because how God has created men and women, she does not possess the ability to upgrade a man to make him better, because God never pictured a woman being the leader of her marriage, no matter how skilled or how gifted she is. He didn't create marriage to be that way. He created men with certain responsibilities, and if they obey and submit to him and lean into their giftedness and lean into what it fully means to be a male, that no matter where their education is, that he will make it enough that they can be a solid and profitable leader for their marriage. That even if their wife earns more money out in the market, this man still is capable in his mental capacity, in his emotional capacity and emotional intelligence, in his spiritual capacity, and in his practical capacity to lead this woman. And so what happens is he has the code from God to crack this code and do whatever needs to be done to make her the individual that God has called her to be, not only within the world, but within their marriage, and to make their marriage the example of what God has called it to be within his kingdom and within the world as an apologetic for why marriage in God's way is better than any other relationship out there. And so I just thought it was interesting to give you some insight into this, into how this boss woman mentality actually leads to role reversal ethic within a marriage, which will automatically lead to a fractured marriage. Why? Because God never created a woman to be the leader of her marriage. She can be the leader of anything else she wants to be. She can be a boss. She can be amazing. I want her to be that. Matter of fact, when I was thinking about getting married, the ethic that I wanted my wife to have in personality, even though it was a made up one, it gave me something to reference, was that of a Claire Huxtable. A wife that was a great wife, partner, and companion, that was a very great mother, but that was also great in what she did out in the marketplace. But one of the things that we saw, whether it was based on reality or not, is that Claire Huxtable always complimented Cliff Huxtable, even though they both had high capacities in their career field. Cliff was always the leader at home. And we have to figure out how to do that nowadays by sitting in Ephesians 5, by sitting in Genesis, by figuring out how to work this nuance of high capacity women into a marriage with a man that can be a high capacity leader and husband, even if he is not as high capacity in the marketplace as his wife may be in her career.